Good afternoon, everybody. It is once again 3 o'clock on Tuesday, which means it must be Zoom-I-Fication conversation time. I don't know about you guys, but I'm really waiting for this one. This one is awesome. As a business owner who has lived through some really tricky years lately, I feel like my business might need a little TLC. A little bit of Band-Aid here, a little bit of, antiseptic there. You name it. I think maybe a little bit of medicine. And so I thought I'd share a little bit of really good medicine with you. She's someone I've known for a very long time, someone who gives amazing, amazing, I want to say advice because I think it's bigger than advice. She has a business where that's what she does. She helps you put tourniquets where tourniquets need to be, Band-Aids where Band-Aids need to be. She helps diagnose where the disease might be in your business and helps you fix it. She's the business doctor of North Jersey, and she's here today to talk to us. Her name is Beth Donalds, and you're going to love her, I think, as much as I do. So I'm going to bring her on right now because you would much rather be talking with her than me. Hey, Beth. How
Hi,
are you?
Jean. I'm good. Thank you.
It is really true. I don't think I've ever had a conversation with you where I haven't walked away going, that was something I should have thought of. It's pretty amazing.
Thank you.
So I know you call yourself everybody's CFO, COO for hire. Can you tell everybody before we start, can you tell our live viewers and our viewers that are watching us on the replay, give them a little bit about who you are and what you do so they know why it's so important that they listen today?
So the hardest thing about what I do is describing it, so I'll take a few seconds. Most big corporations have a director or a vice president of every department: marketing, insurance, legal, accounting, sales, production, whatever it is. Small business owners don't have that luxury. And really, the reason why many small business owners fail is not because they're not passionate or knowledgeable or even fabulous in what they do. It's all the stuff they don't know, if you will. It's all those back office functions. It's all those vice presidents they don't have. So when I work with small business owners, I let them know that they need to build this posse of professionals that small businesses need to, if you will, rent, right? You rent a lawyer by the hour, you rent your accountant, etc. I'm the CFO, COO of that. So I help you with understanding your financials, understanding and modeling your goals and objectives. And then I help you with the operations end, which is basically making this happen. So it's not just enough giving you a plan. I'm not giving you a fish. I'm teaching you how to fish.
And you're really good at it.
Thank you.
So I have to say, Beth is a person who really does hold tight to confidentiality and has never, ever talked to me about any of her clients. But some of her clients are friends of mine. So when I tell you that I know how good she is, it is because I know how good she is.
Thank you.
And she's so good because I can say, I just talked to somebody, and she'll be like, oh, because she just won't talk about them. but I know, and she's awesome. And as I've said, I've have come to you, and you have provided really sage advice. So I'm thrilled you're here today. Thank you. Thank you for coming and talking with us. I am dying to know what you think small businesses should really be looking at right now when it comes to fourth quarter for this. I mean, 2021 is coming after the year that wasn't 2020. So there's so much holdover from all of the stuff that happened in 2020. I feel like there's stuff we're going to be missing. Are there things that businesses should be looking out for right now?
So every business is different, and every need and niche is different. So I really don't like to make generalities because they may or may not apply. But having said that, in general, as we come out of 2021, we're done with excuses, right? I mean, 2020, you pivoted, You made the changes you needed to. 2021 showed that you were a survivor. Everyone needs to just put that kind of mentality behind them. There is no more post-COVID. We're through it. So your 2022 is the world as it is. And honestly speaking, there's no putting the genie back in the bottle. It's not going to go back to 2019. So everyone needs to know that their 2020 plan, 2022 plan is their 2022 plan. There's no more COVID words in it. We've made those transitions. First quarter 2021, everyone was still transitioning. What's the world going to be like when it opens? We've been open for enough time now where if you're listening to this and you're still a player, you're a survivor, you need to make your plans accordingly. You've already pivoted and adjusted. You should have built that into your models already. If not, you certainly build them into 2022.
I think it's really interesting because I've talked with a lot of people in business, and I do want to say for everybody who's watching us, please put comments in for Beth. If you have questions, she's someone.
Oh, yeah, please. I'll answer anything.
And if you're watching us on the replay, put them in too, because we'll be watching the comments after the fact. And I do know you're out there with your glasses of wine watching this on Thursday night. I get the texts from you on Friday morning, so I know you're out there. But I feel like that I'm not going to hold a mirror up to myself, but I do feel like, especially for small businesses where they don't have a huge staff, which really are the people that you work with, there was a lot of reactionary things that happened. Look, I'm here. Whoever knew I'd be doing this, right? So within those pivots, I think a lot of people didn't necessarily put the structure in place. They were just reacting to the fact that they needed to pivot.
Of course.
So I think maybe that's kind of an interesting question. If you were looking at a business, whether it's a startup business or a business that's starting a new arm, are there certain things that have to be in place to make that function well, so that you're not chasing your tail?
So first of all, let me say that I think that all businesses need to immortalize, which means in writing, the plan, the action, the goals. It doesn't matter what it is. When I say in writing, I am not talking War and Peace. All right. This should be less than a page. Okay. It can be 6 bullets. All right. I'm just saying that we as human beings have very, very tricky memories. And we also have selective memories, and some of it are just old and have no memories. You got to immortalize what you said you would do so that you could look back on it to see if it worked. And what ends up happening is time morphs, our memories morphs, we get inputs which morph, and we forgot where we started. So really the trick for me, and one of the strengths and skill sets that I bring to clients is I immortalize it. I write it down. Once again, not War and Peace. So if we have 3 goals for 2022, I write them as bullet points. All right. We hang them up in the place of business. People say to me, well, I only have a home office. I have mine on my wall, because you want to look at them every day. You want a constant reminder, even if it's subliminal. So these are the tips and tricks. Write it down. Once again, this is not supposed to be an exercise in your autobiography. This is simply the 5 thing. If for fourth quarter, okay, which we're in now, right? It's 10/1. We're in fourth quarter. If you want to do a bunch of stuff before the end of the year, write them down. I want to do these 5 things. Put them on a Post-it, stick it on your computer, so that you never lose track of the 5 things you wanted to do. All right. We all do this, right? We want to do things, but they're hard work. They're big. They're large. They're cumbersome. The easy stuff is the small stuff. So what do? We do all the small stuff because it's easy and we get it done. But the 5 things we really said we would do don't get done. So really that's a tip. Okay. Get those 5 things, 3 things, Be realistic with yourself. Don't lie to yourself. Okay. If I can get, if I can get my 2022 plan up and running, if I can get my Christmas gifts out to my clients, okay, and if I can get my books closed on time, victory. Yay, team, good. Just write it down.
I think it's really interesting that you said that, because I've seen The Secret, right? Where it's like, put that, I'm going to make $6 million. When people make plans, I think sometimes, I've certainly heard it, their plans start with, I'm going to make enough money to buy a huge new house, or I'm going to make $1 million in a year. You're not talking about that.
I'm talking just truly the 3 things you need. So I was on a call with a client today. So he's working with me, so he's wonderful, but he's really got his act together. And now we're actually talking about 2022 goals, because the fact is fourth quarter was done 3 months ago. So his goals for 2022, and he's actually making a sign, because he's going to have a meeting with his staff and talk about it. The first thing is they're putting a new computer system in. That's huge for a goal. Okay. His second is that once this system is in, his inventory is going to be counted. There's going to be bin locations. Once again, another massive structure. And his third is going to be that within those, he wants to improve his operational efficiencies. So the computer is key to all of this, because one of the reasons he hasn't done in 2 and 3 is his current system can't handle it. So those are 3 massive goals, which, honestly speaking, by the end of if we were having this conversation a year from now, I'm sure he will accomplish, because he's put human assets to it to make it happen, or dollars. Stuff doesn't happen because you wish it. It happens because you put time, money, or energy to it.
The thing I find so interesting really is having someone to help you encapsulate what's realistic, having you encapsulate what you can reach for and grab based on the pieces, parts that are in play, right? That is the thing that I love about being able to work with you. That's the thing I love about having a trusted confidant that you can say, is this attainable? Can I reach for it?
And one of the things, to your point, which you said before, when someone says, I want to make $1 million, here's as a goal, my response is, don't we all? but that is not an actionable item. Okay. So maybe we start with, sales are at 100,000. We want to double them. Okay, great. How do we get there? So I'm not going to say you're not going to make $1 million. What I'm going to say is that is not something I can implement. But if you say to me, I want to grow my sales by 50%, okay, we can work on that. How are we going to do that? Who's our client? Are we going to market? Are we going to network? Are we going to give freebies? How are we going to get that increase? There are people who work on supply chain, which is big right now. Supply chain disruption, not that you asked, but if you had asked me the 2 things that I think are going to last more than next year, one is going to be supply chain. That's not going away.
So the 2 things that are going to last is issues.
The issues that people are going to have to deal with in their business.
Right.
One is supply chain. It will not resolve in 2022. That's a long-term issue. And I can go into 1,000 reasons why, but that's not for this call. And the second is human assets, employees. Once again, not going to write itself by 2022. So these are the 2 areas. And depending on your business, one may be not irrelevant or one may be vital, right? Every business is different. But those disruptions are not writing themselves overnight. So businesses that are reliant on one and or both have to be very, very proactive. So my clients who have product that was coming in from Japan, from China, in June started seeking secondary sources, Pakistan, Thailand, Philippines, wherever it is. So those people that realized this is the start, not the end, have product in-house now. I have clients who had to recognize supply chain and recognize that in order to be ready for Christmas, they needed to buy all their Christmas stock in the summer. Huge cash flow implications, because it doesn't go like this now. It's like this.
Right.
But you had to adjust for the supply chain. So every business is different. Every business's issues are different. Every business has different impacts due to supply chain or employees or whatever. The biggest thing or advice I can give is do not put your head in the sand on this stuff. You know, the people that come out of this 3 to 5 years from now as victorious are going to be the ones that have the courage to say, I have a problem, and now I have the courage to find the solution. That's going to be really, I think courage is going to be the word that that I'm going to use a lot in the next 18 months. I've used it a lot in the last 12.
So I think a whole bunch of people listening are going to go, okay, so if I have to do this exponential spend, right? How are people adjusting for that?
So for a significant amount of my clients, we took the auto loans. So we recognized that supply chain was an issue. Many of my clients have huge amounts of dollars in inventory and then how to increase it exponentially for lead times, which is what we're talking. So we took auto loans. The auto loan is a really, really great vehicle. And by the way, I think the application runs out shortly. So if you're in that boat, you know, please apply for the auto loan. It's a no-brainer. And under 200,000, it's only business assets that are
Okay, so
pledged.
tell people what that stands for.
Economic Injury Recovery Loan. It's by the SBA. Type in EIDL, it'll come up. So that's one way of funding, if you will, this peak.
Right.
The other is for my clients that did well out of COVID. Okay, I asked them to apply for a line of credit from their bank. So I have a bunch of people now that have $100,000, $150,000 lines from their banks.
And there were businesses that survived and thrived in COVID.
So what I tell people, it was really a bell curve, right? Remember the old-fashioned bell curve? Stat 101 coming at you. Okay, so most people were here, all right, on top of the bell. So most people were either hanging on with their nails or were just doing okay. And then you have the two. These people didn't make it, and these people survived. Thrived. So you ended up having the majority of the businesses up here. These didn't make it. These really thrived. Now, a lot of people will say, well, it seems like much more didn't make it. And that's just because the visualizations, for example, of restaurants closing was much more visual. And it was disproportionate. I'm not knocking restaurants. I have clients that own restaurants. I'm just saying that you don't see the Main Street guy in the middle of Patterson owns a factory who's killing it. Right. You notice that your restaurant that you love to go to closed.
Right.
So yes, the restaurant industry was hurt disproportionately, but when you look at business as a whole, you know, it really was that piece.
It was really interesting because I have clients and friends as well who had businesses, comfort businesses. That was a whole year where people wanted comfort. So comfort foods and things that you could order and things that would help people pass the time. Those businesses did extraordinarily well.
Yes.
And there, you know, people that could supply things and look, we needed stuff to keep us busy. But I love addressing that whole supply chain employment issue, knowing that people are inside that bubble and trying to deal with this. Are people actually attempting to raise rates at this point in time?
Raise rates as far as dollars?
For their services or their products?
So I'm a huge fan of raising your price every year. People say to me, why? And I went, didn't your expenses go up? Show me someone whose expenses stay the same completely. It's ridiculous. Now, Some people say, I don't want to raise a client every year. I want to raise them every other. Okay, it's your world. You do what but I am a fan of recognizing that you have to increase your rates, especially if you are human labor oriented, because you just got killed with minimum wage going up every year. So if you've got crews, people, lots of bodies, if you will, to do whatever it is that you do, okay, you really are going to be loss of margin just by increasing minimum wage.
But I hear this a lot, and I hear it from a lot of people. And I know I step in it sometimes. You don't want to be in a position where you have loyal clients that say, "Well, wait, it used to be X last year. Why is it Y this year?" So, is there some kind of guideline? Is there something to think about when you're thinking about raising your rates?
So market obviously bears rate, right? So if market is 130 and you want to charge 150, you better explain to a client what the value is. All right. So I don't normally talk price, I talk value. So when a client is raising a rate from, I'm making this up, 150 to 160 an hour, if somebody really balks, my response is, really? Because like
$10? Yeah,
exactly. Okay. So, I'm sitting there going, okay, really? Because if you really have to have that explanation, maybe you want to rethink the client. But if you're really changing your rate radically higher, that's a separate issue. And I'm also talking about if you're raising your rate in a way that throws you really outside of market, then it's a value conversation.
Right.
So I normally will discuss value with my clients. So I have a client who is going to be changing their pricing structure in January. Okay. For some of their clients, it's going to be, let's say, $1,000 more a year. Let's just say. We're going to write an email that addresses all their concerns. Okay. We're going to spend weeks writing that email that's going to go out sometime around maybe 6 weeks before the end of the year, saying Happy New Year, Happy Holidays. Just want to let you know, due to events, COVID, whatever, we're going to be raising our rates, blah, 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 blah. We understand that you're a loyal client. We love you, but it's been 3 years since we raised our rates and we have no choice. Love, company.
Right.
Nicely. Okay. People understand. Business people are reasonable. And if you really haven't raised your rate in 3 years, it was time last year. So I know a lot of people in 2020 didn't raise their rates. And I know that a lot of people in 2021 didn't raise their rates. So here's my response. It's time. If you have a loyal client base, if you are not being a pig, if you're raising your rates 5 to 7% because life just went up and or minimum wage. And like if you put out an email saying, hey, I'm sorry, but our product it comes from internationally, and internationally freight rates have gone up 300%. By the way, they have. So we have to raise it because of freight. Do you think business people are going to go, oh, that's ridiculous? They're going to go, of course it is. We have a client, I have a client that their freight charge was 12% all through 2020. Okay. In 2021, their freight charge is up to 19%. Okay. They're not making any money. That's the pass through.
Right.
Freight that's why supply chain is being disrupted. Things are hanging out in ports and water, and they're not being able to come in. So it's real.
I want to do this. I want to, so Debbie is watching us. Hi, Debbie. I'm so glad you're here. I really do. I knew you guys would love this topic, especially for people with small businesses. Debbie's in a service business. So am I. We were talking about supply chain. We were talking about hard goods. What are there tips for people who are doing service businesses? Debbie is an amazing trauma therapist. She's ridiculously good. Are there tips that we need to be paying attention to as service people?
So I'm a service business, obviously. So service businesses have unique issues that I'm not pro or con, just different. So one of the things that service businesses need to recognize is, knock on wood, your expenses probably didn't go up too much, assuming that it's not human asset. Okay. So you're able to absorb more of the cushion than other folk. So obviously your rates have to go up because you should raise your rates, but they don't have to go up as exponentially as other people do just to make money. So, I'm a fan of valuing your services. I'm a fan of valuing market to see where you're at. You can be the Cadillac. You don't have to be a Kia. Okay. But know who you are and then explain that value. So many times people will say to me, well, I saw a business coach and they'll do it for, $99 an hour or whatever it is. And my response is, that's good. And if that's what you want, go right ahead, because they probably took the 3-day course and poof, I'm a business coach. I've spent my lifetime honing my craft. So
Right.
I do think that's the value conversation. So I don't think service industries, or service companies in any way should have a conversation that's any different than hardscape, if you will. It really has to just be its value. Why do I buy a nut for $1 versus $1.50? Because the dollar nut is going to shred in 3 months, and the $1.51, 20 years from now, I'm going to have to pry it off. So it's value.
The thing that's really interesting about it as a service person is people as a whole are used to not valuing their own time.
Mm-hmm.
So when they come to you and they say, but it's just your time, it's a really interesting conversation, because I'm like, well, it's my skill, it's my education, it's all of my history, it's what I'm going to do for you, how I'm going to take care of you. And yes, it's my time.
Did you ever hear so there's a famous story. It's less than a minute. So it was a NASA scientist. Okay. He retired. And in trying to fix that up, okay.
You're live, everybody. Say hi.
Sorry about that. And basically what happened is he retired, and then NASA folks were working on a project and they couldn't get this apparatus to work. So they ended up calling him in, and he fixed it and gave them a bill for $50,000. Okay. Now remember, guy from retirement, this is a super duper, right? So when questioning the bill, the accountant, I say this because bean counters do this, said, all you did was adjust a nut. Okay. He goes, I'm sorry, but this is crazy. I'm not going to spend you $50,000. You did a nut and a screw. You have to itemize your bill. And he said, okay, fine. So he wrote 1 nut screw assembly, $1. Knowing where to put it and use it, $49,999. And I think that story speaks to what you just spoke about, right?
Right.
It's not the hour of my time. It's the knowledge base that now I put a value on, which you either accept or don't accept. And I'm okay either way. Right. But the fact is, it's not what you in your head arbitrarily think is an hour worth of my time, right? It's really hard. I get it. And trust me, I'm one of you, and I am my clients, and I get it. It's a really hard conversation to have, but once again, you talk value. It's not the $3.99 or the $5.99 or the $9.99. It's, please understand what you're getting for this. And that's where you get a chance to shine, because you get a chance to really sing your praises. Most of the time self-praise stinks, right? We're really, especially women, are very, we don't like to sing our own praises. Men, on the other hand,
self-appreciating, yeah. Yes.
I mean, they'll
self-deprecating, yeah.
Tell you how wonderful they are every moment. But this is where we have to step up and take a lesson from our male counterparts. Okay. And when you're selling value, sell it. I say to people all the time, hey, when you're looking for a coach, okay, first look at credentials. All right. Do they have credentials? Do they have I mean, once again, great if they have an MSW. Okay, but does that really help you with business? Great if they have their college degree in phys ed, but once again, so I remind people, really look at the education, look at their experiences, look at the LinkedIn. Really, come on, data mine that. Just go look at that and see if that's a fit for someone you're looking for. Jean is a photographer. If I looked at her LinkedIn and I see for the last 25 years she's been corporate America, okay, doing accounting, I'm going to think twice about that versus someone who's been in. So age is not necessarily commensurate with experience. So you really need to check out that person, let them walk the walk, talk that talk, okay, and then really see if they are who they are. And if they are, then they're worth every penny.
And as a business person, you have to hold on to that for yourself. I think that was that's a very difficult spot. And again, there are people who do it better than others. Being the baby of an Italian family and a mother saying, don't get too big ahead. You do walk with this sort of, okay. But as a business owner, you have to say, wait, I spent years learning this craft. I spent years putting this together. I've gotten really good at it. And you have to own that space so that when people come at you and say, I don't understand, you can say, okay, that's okay. This is why.
Yep.
And when they say, but I don't agree, you can say, okay, that's your choice.
So one of my hard, fast rules, which I'll break, but it's a pretty hard, fast rule, is there are going to be people who have it in their head that your service is worth a certain amount. And they are not willing to pay more for that no matter what. So here's the sentence you have to learn. That person is not my client.
I love that sentence.
That's okay. It's not to negotiate with that person because they're never going to understand your value. It's not to try and make it, people say to me, here's all the things I do when someone says they can't afford me. You know what I say when someone says they can't afford me? You're absolutely right. Call me when you can. Here's why. I don't want clients that I had to convince that they need my services. I want clients who get the value I bring and get it. And if it means I have a handful of less clients, that's okay, because the ones I have are the right ones. Invariably, the clients that people struggle with, the PITAs, right? Okay. They're the ones you shouldn't have taken on in the first place.
And you didn't like working with. And you never like working with them.
Right? I've never had someone say, wow, I started working with someone and I thought they were so wonderful and they weren't. Here's what people say. I knew I shouldn't have taken that client on. From the minute I met them, they were a problem. Warning, warning, warning. Don't take me. So I think people have to remember when I interview a client, they are interviewing me, but I am also interviewing them. And it's okay for the end of the conversation for us to say, I don't think this is a fit. Okay, go with God, find someone who's better suited to you. Because it's true. I do want everybody to find the right person. And if I'm not it, don't knock the fact that you need help. Go find someone that's better suited to you.
Right.
So I think that whole idea of being comfortable that you're worth it, being able to express why in a very non-emotional way. But at the end of the day, if that person comes back and says, well, I'm really thinking of only spending X, will you negotiate? Here's my second, truism. I never negotiate price. That's a period. Never. Okay. And here's why. Because everybody talks. Everybody has friends. You think I'm going to remember who I charge what to? I have one rate. Why? Because it's easy to remember.
Yep.
Okay. And I don't have to worry if Mary talks to John, or as you said, if someone that I'm working with happens to mention to you and you compare notes, one of you is going to be unhappy. So I don't want that.
I love Debbie's comment. Debbie's comment is it's a difficult business lesson. And I agree. I learned this lesson because I had a mentor at the very, very beginning when I started out because I was very smart to talk to someone who had had a photography business for a while. And I didn't want to know what she did right. I wanted to know what she hated that she had done wrong. And that was one of the first things she said is she said, I undervalued my services because I thought I needed to get people in the door. And when I got them in the door, and this is not the dollars, but when you get them in the door for $10 and then you say, but I'm really worth $100.
Good luck.
Yeah. So, and by the way, you don't want the $10 clients. So why did you do that?
Well, and if you, in your mind, which is what the other thing, people say, I'll increase them every year. Okay, it's going to take you 10 years for them to get up.
Right.
Well, there is also this idea of you kind of get the client you want because then they have friends who are the same client you want. There is that, but in general, most business owners know and justify why making a bad decision is a good thing. Right?
Yeah.
I know I shouldn't take this client on, but I'm really light this month. I know I shouldn't take this client off, but they're a friend of Tom, Dick, or Harry's. There's reasons why business owners make bad decisions for what they believe at the moment was a good reason. What I caution clients,
and they haunt you. Haunt you.
If your gut is telling you something, if the hair on the back of your neck is standing up, you need to pay attention because that's a lifetime of your instincts knowing better than your intellect is. Because intellectually, you're rationalizing why you should do this, even though your stomach is churning, the hair on your back and your neck is standing up. Your body is telling you, don't take this person on. You're justifying it, let's face it, for financial reasons. That's why we all do it, right? Why would you take a difficult client? Because you need the money. I get it. In the long run, that client's going to pay you minimum wage.
Yeah, or less.
You got to go.
I have a story. I'm going to say this really, really fast. It's this is when I learned, and this client or prospective client, I will forever be grateful to because I always walked on those like shards of glass trying to figure out how to say it. And this woman called me and she said, we had a wonderful conversation, almost a half an hour on how we were going to set up her session, what it was going to be like. It was going to be great. And then I was like, okay. And this is how it spells out. And you know me, there are businesses where there are buried costs and I don't like them. So I tell you what it's going to cost. When we're done, this is what it's going to cost because I don't want, especially in photography, there are lots of photographers. There are lots of training courses where they tell you, get them in for $9.99 and make sure that they spend $2,000 by the time they're done. I've never liked that. So this is what it's going to cost, right? So, and she said, oh, well, I know someone who'll do it for $40. And I mean, it was such a shock. And I went, so you need to hire them. And she said, but I love your work. And I said, okay, that's what I cost.
Good.
And there was no pain for me in this conversation because it was so insane. And she went, but that person will do it for $40. I'm like, great, you should hire them. And she said, well, don't you think you're being outrageous? I said, no, I don't think I'm the one who's being outrageous right now. I said, but I get that $40 is your limit and you have someone that can do it for you. So that's great.
Yep.
I'm so happy for you.
You say, go with God. Bye.
Right. Hung up the phone. The next day, the phone rings. I knew it was her. I on the caller ID. I pick up the phone and expecting to hear, and trust me, I was not going to work with her. But what I heard was, so have you come to your senses?
Listen, no, and I'm sorry, but I'm not going to.
Isn't that like the best? So being able to sort of stand in the space and go, and really, truly, that it was a gift because whenever I have to have this conversation, that's what I think of. When people are coming after me like that, I just think, I'm not going to do it for $40. Like it's the craziest conversation. Now I will do this, and I don't know how you feel about this. And for service businesses, it's really interesting. My prices are actually listed on my website. I really believe in it. I want to be able to say to people, I'm not making this up. Look at my website. These are my prices, right? And again, a lot of photographers will not do that, right? Because they have buried costs. I don't. Those are my prices. They're over there. And there's different levels. So there are packages. So I'll say to somebody, based on what you're asking me for, it's package 3. And they'll say, well, that's not in my budget. And I'm like, okay, we can ramp back to package 2. This is what you're going to get. That'll meet your budget. It won't meet your need. But if you want to get partway to your need, we can do this. But just understand, if we're meeting budget, I understand we can work there. But because it's all listed, I can say, okay, so I'm not compromising on cost. I'm not compromising on value. I'm not compromising on effort. I'm saying, okay, we're going to consider what you consider to be the most important thing to you. And if it's budget, this is how we'll fit that in.
So, pricing on your website is, once again, very business specific. So let's assume your products. So I have a client who does, what are they called? Like memorial books. She'll interview people on their lives. She'll tell their life story. She'll do pictures. It's bound beautifully. It is a gift. She does them from mothers to daughters on the wedding day.
Oh, I love it.
Okay.
That is lovely.
So these are amazing, one of a kind books kind of thing. And she spends hours curating them and writing them kind of thing. So she would get phone calls from people, but before I met her, that were just pouring out their life story of their parent who was sick with cancer and whatever, and, breaking her heart. And they wanted to spend $150. So I had to stop those phone calls to her. First of all, they were breaking her heart. And secondly, her product started $7,000.
Right.
So I said to her, you need to get on your website, starting at $7,000.
Correct.
Some of them starting at $10,000. And she fought me for, it had to be 6 months. So finally I said to her, why don't we do it? If it doesn't work, we'll stop it. It's not like it's forever. It's on our website. We pull it up, we'll pull it down, we'll pull it up. So she finally agreed for 3 months. When the phone started ringing, it was people that already knew the price point.
Right.
The ones that were going to spend $150 didn't call. So
Right.
I think that pricing on your website eliminates a lot of traffic that they're not your client. And for a lot of clients, such as someone like you, where time is what you bill, right? Not having those 5 phone calls that you're spending a half an hour with, okay, who are never going to be your clients because the price point's not there. We just gave you back 2.5 hours. If you give someone back 2.5 hours a week for the end of the month, they just got 2 work days back. Let me tell you, how many times would I love a day between Wednesday and Thursday, right? Between Thursday and Friday. But that's that extra day back. So anytime we can make pricing achieve a goal, get it on your website.
But you just said something that was so important, right? Which was there's a filter because you do that. And what people will say is, but people won't contact me.
Yes.
And maybe if they talk to me, they'd want to pay me more. Then we're back to, but you're convincing people again.
And here's the end of the day. If you were to do that, so let's say you are one of these, you're a super salesperson, okay? And if someone calls and, to your point, wants to spend $40 and your product's $500, and you're a super salesman and you're able to sell them in a 20-minute conversation, good for you, okay? Like, you're amazing, but the rest of us don't have that skill set. The fact is, I can get someone from 40 to 50, but not 40 to 200 or 300. So,
and I would hasten to say that person who agreed to that $500 is now thinking, but I still think it's worth 40.
Oh, yeah.
So there's $460 worth of bonus they want from you.
Oh, and they're going to take it out on blood. I hear you. So really, to my point, I would rather you spend time converting people that are already okay with the price than trying to convince people on price. It's just conversion rates, which is, let's face it, this is business.
Yep.
How much time, right? It's a pipeline. Someone doesn't know me, someone knows me, someone learns about me, they check me out online, they call me. My job now as the person on the other end of that phone is to do a closing, right? To close that deal. If anywhere in that pipeline stream, I can interject something that causes them to self-police and not call me, great. And is it possible that I lose a sale? Sure. But think of all the time that I didn't, and energy I didn't expend in talking to people that will never be my client. You got to weigh it.
Yep. And understanding that the people that are calling you are already vested. The people that are calling you love your product, love your service, or at least are really interested in it and say, I can afford it.
They're pre-qualified.
Right.
So that's kind of, so when we talk about websites and the purpose of websites, there's many purposes of having a website. But one of the ones that I'm particularly fond of is where it the website itself pre-qualifies people. So then when they hit that call button, they already know what to expect. That is huge in making your website work for you.
Jessica's here. Hi, Jessica. Jessica, a tutor doctor of North Jersey and Rockland, awesome person. Jessica is the queen of having all of her ducks in a row and all of her systems going. I know that you know Jessica. You've known Jessica for a while too. Jessica, we're so glad you're here. And just for everybody who's watching, if you have questions for Beth, we're kind of rounding up the hour. So if you have questions that you want to ask Beth, please drop them in the comments. She's here and she'll talk to you.
I will.
And she's awesome at it. I want to wrap around because I kind of want to get us back to where we were. I know we kind of like, it's okay. So Jessica, we have talked about so many things. You have to watch the beginning on the replay. It's Beth. You know how awesome she is. Make sure you circle back to the replay. But we were just kind of talking about the things you can do on a website to really benefit your business and pre-screen clients for yourself. But I want to circle back around. We had talked on it earlier in the whole write it down scenario. We're rolling into 2022. I love the fact that your clients are already there. Your clients are already in 2022, which is just an amazing thing. That's why you want to have someone like Beth in your corner. If you have Beth in your corner, you're really lucky. But as far as writing it down, plan, action, goal, what are the steps to creating? And I know you said jot it down, but how do you take a plan from I just won $1 million, or I need to have a college fund for my kid, or I want to retire in 10 years? That's how do you take that into something that you can create a plan that is actionable for the next year? Because that's where we all are, right? We're creating that actionable plan.
So let's say I want to pay for college in 5 years, right? So someone calls and says, I want to pay for a college tuition for my 2 kids, 100%, and the first kid goes in 5 years. Okay. So once again, that's a personal goal, obviously fueled by business. So I respect that my clients are talking about personal goals, but I don't work in your personal life. So I'm going to say things like, okay, that's a great goal. Why don't we see what the business is doing to see what the business can contribute to it? And then I'll look and I'll see that they're drawing $50,000 a year out of their business, which, by the way, may be good or bad, but it's not going to pay for 2 kids in 4 years of college. I mean, it's just not going to happen. So a lot of times what we do is we talk about baby steps. How do you eat an elephant? How do you get there? Most of the time, the reason why it's so difficult for people is they think of it as eating an elephant. I break it down to, let's say, okay, what are we going to do? Before next meeting, I just want you to do this. Before next meeting, just do that. Let's commit that before our next meeting, you're going to do these 3 things. It's progress. So one of the things, one of my analogies that I use with my clients that everyone seems to be able to grasp. In any given moment, in any given subject or project, there's going to be a station, a train station, and some of them people are going to get on the local and some people are going to get on the express. And the local just gets you there slower, right? But it gets you there, and the express gets you there faster. I don't care if you get on a local or express, but you can't stay at the station. So what I do is I force people to get on one of those two trains in any different subject. Some people are on locals here or expresses here or that kind of stuff, but it's always going to be forward motion, moving towards your goals. You'll determine whether we get there faster or slower. But as long as we're moving forward and I see progress along your journey, I'm a happy camper.
I love that. I love that visual because I think there are lots and lots of people standing at the booth where they have all of the flyers about where you can go, right? I think there are lots of people that are standing there going, well, maybe I should do new services, or maybe I should get rid of a service, or maybe I should sell a product, or maybe I should, right? Like they don't even turn around and see there's a train.
I have one client who was, she was very, very successful in what she was doing. So, but it was getting difficult now. In other words, the next level was going to require a lot of time, money, and energy, rethinking her business, rethinking the way she ran her supply chain. It was going to be a big step. So she called me up and she goes, hey, I'm thinking of, let's just say, of going into basket weaving. And I went, huh? She goes, what do you think? I said, honestly, I'm not saying whether basket weaving is good or bad, but I think you're looking at that because in your mind, it's easier than taking the next logical step in your business, which is to make those huge leaps and to make your business more valuable. And why do we do that? Because sometimes it's really friggin' hard. Because sometimes it does seem like there's no way I can do that. And the reality is, if you're in business for yourself, you already made giant leaps. It takes courage and a lot of guts to go into your own business. Okay. So I think that entrepreneurs by nature are amazing people. And when most of the time you throw a challenge at them, they'll maneuver it, right? But sometimes the challenges are just appear overwhelming and you need someone in your corner cheerleading you, going, you got this. Okay, so it's 20 steps. So it'll take us 20 weeks. Who cares? Every now and then, everybody needs a cheerleader. Everyone needs someone to say, you can do this. And honestly speaking, I haven't met a challenge yet that my clients can't do because they're awesome. They're amazing. They have unbelievable courage of their convictions. And I think the COVID situation just showed it. So I have roughly 50 clients, and so far, all of them have made it through.
That's awesome.
And it's not because I'm that good. It's because they were that good. I'm on their team, okay? I'm part of their team, but I can't make clients fabulous. They just need help in being fabulous. They have it in them all along.
But it's also true that they acknowledged that they weren't going to do it on their own, and they sought help.
I think the thing about someone like me is that let's face it, I'm an expense. So people have to feel that they're going to get their money's worth or value. And the only thing I can tell people is if back office business, supply chain, accounting, all those kind of things are not your bailiwick, you need to go out and seek them just like you would an attorney or a CPA to do your taxes or HR to help you with HR and employment. You're a photographer. You don't do any of that stuff. It's unrealistic to think you can do it as well. And even if you could, and you could amass the knowledge base to do it as well, it's not what you do. You're a photographer. Go pay people to do this, right? I mean, can you lay tile in your house? Maybe.
Poorly.
Maybe. Maybe if you read enough books and bought all the equipment and were willing to get those little knee pads and lie on your ground but why would you? It's not what you do. Hire the guy who does the tile, and while he's doing that, go make the money to pay him, because you can do that for what you do. So I'm a real proponent of do what you do what you're good at, do what brings value, and bring in those other folk who have that skill set or knowledge base that you need, not all the time, but that you need to keep you and your company healthy. You need, I don't care what size you are. I don't care if you're a solopreneur. I don't care if you have 50 people. You need a well-run, best practice company. And most people need help getting there. They just don't have it on their own.
I agree with you. It's very hard. It's very hard to be, but you also have this idea sometimes that you really can do it all by yourself, and that is a fallacy. It's just maybe it's not. Maybe you can do it all by yourself, but in doing it all by yourself, you're limiting your options. You become your own bottleneck, right?
Yes, and the thing for me is that nobody can do it all by themselves. That is just it's not true. I don't care if you have skills and ability to do it all yourself. But the reality is you are more valuable to your company doing what you do. So one of the things I tell people is you got to take off the worker bee hat and you got to put on your owner hat. And as an owner, what is best for Gene Turman photography? For Gene Turman to be laying tile, or for Gene Turman to be filming, headshots for 5 people? I'll argue your value to Gene Turman is those 5 shots. And while you may do an amazing job making minimum wage at laying that tile, you didn't help Gene Turman photography by doing that. So a lot of times when clients are making what I consider to be not the best decision, I will say to them, okay, take all those hats off and just put on the hat of this. And then see whether or not that still is a good decision for the company. And if it is, okay.
There's something else that you said in there that I love too. It's not just the owner has to say, where is my time best used? It really is making sure that the people that you're calling on, whether it's your employees or vendors or contractors or whatever you're doing, that they're in their best place doing their best thing.
Correct.
So if you say to your daughter or your cousin or your uncle, hey, I need photos, could you hold my camera? Probably not going to get you the best thing. If you say, look, I know you took that course. Could you do my taxes for me this year? Or could you do my bookkeeping for me? Probably not the best use of manpower.
Absolutely.
So finding the right people, being with the right people, getting skilled people who know what they're doing
is awesome. So that's your posse of professionals. And I don't care what size you are, every business needs that posse of professionals, because that's what makes you have a well-run, best practices company.
And it's scary. I personally can tell you there is real fear in having to give something that you love over to someone else, having to trust someone to carry a part of this baby that you're trying to build. And that's true for most, especially for most small to mid-sized business owners, because they're not distanced enough from their business, right? You're in it every day and you're loving it every day. And if you didn't, you probably wouldn't be there. And now you have to say, but I need someone else to babysit my baby.
I need help.
Yeah.
To grow.
And again, would you give your baby to Uncle Harry? Probably, maybe not. I don't know.
The fourth kid, you'll give your kid to anyone, but. And on that note,
we are at the hour. I got to tell everybody, thank you so much for everybody who watched this live. Thank you so much for everybody who's watching us on the replay. You know how much I love you. I don't know if you figured it out yet or not, but I happen to love this woman. Beth, thank you so much for coming on board with us.
Thank you, everyone.
This is actually
business.
I got to do this. This is how you can find Beth online. So go to businessdrnj.com, check her out, check out her website. If you need help, call this woman. She's really busy.
Thank you all.
But she's amazing. So come back next week. We were talking business this week. We're talking personal care next week. We're going to talk with Sarah Sampaio, and we're going to talk about your skin. We're going to talk about what to do about your skin for the fall, which is going to be really awesome. So make sure you're back here next week. Later on in the month, we're going to do something for breast cancer awareness. So please make sure this is marked on your calendar. 3 p.m. every Tuesday, Zoom-I-Fication conversations. And again, whether you were watching us live, whether you're watching us on the replay, I love you all, and I can't wait to see you next week.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye, everybody.